also the signs of the times, the way
Yes.
I believe anyway. And I believe that gentleman who saved those people, who came out and got the shooter, he did the right thing.
Yes.
And I believe that Pierce Morgan needs to have a hot poker put where the sun don't shine.
Alex already did that once, though. I mean, maybe I have to come back down there and teach him another lesson.
That's it.
He ran him all the way back to England, didn't he?
That's it. I mean, my husband, he owns a wedding venue, and I have to work it. And the abuse that I have had to suffer over here, and whenever we've had to phone the police in a couple of times, the police would do absolutely nothing. We could get hit, we could get smacked. Over here, they just turned a blind eye to abuse. And I keep telling them I'm from Texas, and we have zero tolerance in Texas. This just would not be accepted in Texas. And needless to say, for these poor people, there's so many dead now, and it's sad. But I think that we're going to have pistol packing pastors.
That's right.
We're going to have to.
I don't know if you heard the report that summarizing in yesterday, but years ago I talked to an individual who protected a church. It was a liberal church. They targeted it because they didn't think anybody would have guns, but he happened to be visiting that day. And he shut down an attack by 4 terrorists with fully automatic weapons who started by throwing grenades into the church building. And he stopped it with just a 38. They thought there were multiple shooters. So it is very important. He wrote that book, Shooting Back, because he wanted to encourage pastors to protect people in this very, very soft target. And that's true of any soft target. You need to have somebody who is going to be protecting the individuals there, but it's something that pastors really need to understand. Well, thank you so much. Was there anything else that you want to say?
Yes, there is something else, David. I've been following the Arabian Princess ordeal. I've been reading everything that I can read about it over here, because one advantage of being in the UK, we get a lot more news that isn't censored, that is censored back home. And it seems like the guys that were arrested actually own the top 4 stories of the Mandalay Bay. And I'm not wondering now if that's where the connection's at.
Well, that's something that I hadn't heard anybody suggest yet. I've looked at this, and of course, what we see happening here is a consolidation of power. This new Saudi princess there is the son of the guy who's currently the king. They have a crown prince. They've had crown princes before that weren't directly immediate family, because most of these guys in the royal family, that's very, very extended. They got multiple wives and a lot of kids from each wife. So you've got a lot of Saudi royalty. And one of the guys who was killed in the helicopter crash was the son of the guy who was the first crown prince underneath this particular king. But of course, when he became crown prince, he was in his 70s or 80s. Most of these guys have been when they become crown prince or when they become king. So it's very unusual to have somebody that's this young. I got a whole stack of stuff about what's going on in Saudi Arabia. But the thing that I think we need to be concerned about is the fact that this isn't just a consolidation of power and one part of the family taking over from the other part of the family, the Taglias and the Corleones or whatever. This is something that they're now talking about acts of war. We know that Saudi Arabia has been involved in a war with Yemen, and we know that they're now talking about Lebanon attacked us. They're saying Iran attacked us, and these different sects of Islam are coming after each other as much as they're coming after us. So my concern, and many people are saying this may not just be a consolidation of power, this may be a greater war that is coming. And as we see President Trump having his son-in-law go over there, meeting with the Saudi prince before all this stuff began, I'm sure that maybe there was something they're sanctioning that. My concern is, are we going to see a move now with Saudi Arabia if they try to not only consolidate power there, but enlarge their borders? He just had a big Davos in the desert where he bought into the globalist plans. And we know that just as they did in Europe, the globalists want to have a single point of contact. I think they would like to have one group of people controlling all of the Arabs, and that might be the Saudis. Who knows? There might be a move away from the petrodollar. Maybe that was why Trump's son-in-law went there, Jared Kushner. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. It's the first time I've seen anybody mention their control of Mandalay Bay. Of course, they control a lot of stuff. These guys are very rich. He's also the largest stockholder of Twitter. So you can read into that whatever you want. Thank you so much, Kelly. We've got some other people that are on hold. Thank you for calling. Very interesting call. Let's go to David in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, David.
David Knight. What a pleasure. I've been following one there for years, I suppose, since your coverage of the Bundy fiasco.
Well, thank you.
I am David Clarence, calling from the nation of Pennsylvania. I am the county notary. I want to thank you and your wife, your lovely wife, for all the work that you put in behind the scenes, putting your show together every day. It's so informative. Been following you and absolutely delighted that I feel that one of the best moves. Well, one here is probably the most banned man on the internet. And not these other folks that call in and claim to be, but I've been banned since 2009.
Wow.
Reason for calling is ask your help. Been a researcher and advocate, fought in the courts for going on 44 years now, and I keep hearing you talk about this amendment, Second Amendment, First Amendment, and I wonder if you could help one here find, where can I find that amendment that you speak of all the time?
The Constitution. I understand that the Constitution has been completely removed by the people in government, but I think it's important because they appeal to it for their authority. It's important for us to point out when they don't follow it, because people need to understand that they don't have legitimate authority if they don't follow the Constitution. That is the standard. That is our king. We've got a king. They've got a king in Saudi Arabia. Our king is the Constitution, and that king has been deposed a long time ago, hasn't it, David?
I can't find any amendments in the Constitution, David. Been a researcher a long time. Here is what you're dealing with, is two of the Bill of Rights. And
well, hang on. We'll take callers on the other side of the break. I'm David Knight. Stay with us.
You deserve a deep, restful sleep with knockout ingredient.
But the one following
against these innocent people in their place of worship. It's abominable.
Yes.
A year ago, I live in Utah, where they have a stand your ground law, and you can protect your property if you perceive a threat any way you see fit.
Yes.
I'm kind of unconventional in the sense that I have kilns in my space. I have 2,000-degree furnaces because I work with glass. The space that I dwelt in before I was given 3 felonies for protecting it. I was trying to withdraw from an escalation, and some people broke into my home. And I got them out physically the first time, but when they actually came back in persistently, that's when I ran to my bed and grabbed, my gun. So I scared them out with a loaded pistol with no intent to use it.
But they're in your home?
In my home.
Wow.
I was arrested within an hour and given 3 felonies.
Wow. Have you been convicted? Have you gone to trial? Did you have a jury trial?
After 3 plea and abeyance, like a long drawn out, I was supposed to go to trial in July, and I went to trial in November. And it was one of those things that was being dragged out, and I just wanted to have it over with. They gave me a misdemeanor and told me that they made a deal with me saying that they would give me a misdemeanor if I promised to never own a gun.
Wow. Yeah. That's what they always do. They always want to discourage people from exercising their rights to a trial by jury. And, I think one of the key things that we have to reclaim in this country is a trial by jury. And it's a difficult thing because most of the jurors are not going to be informed. They're going to be told that they're simply referees. They don't have any right to judge the law or the way the law is being applied or the kind of penalties that would come with a conviction. They don't have a right to judge any of that. Instead, they're just to look at the facts. And that's not true. Our judges have said, we are the ones who will judge the laws and we will change things around. They have exactly reversed the way that was supposed to be, the way it always was in English and American tradition. And so the judges are supposed to be the referees, and the jury is there to decide the facts of the case, but also whether or not the law is a reasonable law. And instead, we have the judiciary saying we will decide whether the laws are reasonable or not. We'll decide whether or not the government, whether or not the president's orders are reasonable or not. And you just shut up and make a determination on what we show you. I'm very sorry to hear that. That's so you're not allowed to own guns then at this point.
In the state of Utah, my lawyer told me they can't enforce it.
That's interesting. Well, thank you for calling us. We've got to take a break. We'll be right back with more of your phone calls. If you want to call in, that number is 888-201. Other really loud.
You're a demon.
And there's other ways to attack this. Rather, we see that happening all the time. We see people and families being attacked by other individuals, a murder or suicide. But this was also beyond that. This was a vendetta. Anybody that saw his social media before the government shut it down, before they hit it, knows what his political agenda was, knows what his religious vendetta was against Christians. There's no question about what his motives are. We've already seen that.
Well, I'd seen another with Franklin Graham on it this morning, and he had said, yes, they were killed in the church. Their last breath was taken on that church floor. But their next breath that those people took was in the presence of Jesus Christ. Let's stop blaming Jesus for this and see where the real evil lies, and that's within the evil one. Listen, those guns, they can legislate guns all they want and whatever, but then they're going to have to legislate trucks, pressure cookers.
Right. And they will. Yeah. Because they keep focusing on the externals because they don't understand that this is the fruit of a heart that has rejected God, has rejected Christ. And that's what they're seeing here. They don't understand the nature of evil. They don't understand human nature. And that's the thing that our founders did. Our founders were from a Christian perspective. They understood that man is inherently evil. Therefore, you cannot allow him to accumulate unrestricted, unchecked power. That's why they created a system of checks and balances that we have now thrown away. That was to stop to try to check the power of evil, to try to check bad people with good people. And that's what we saw happening at that church shooting.
And it breaks my heart that they had to go through this, but the thing of it is, like I said, guns now I'm from a small town, okay? And there's even a smaller town about the size of that town in Texas. This proves that this could happen anywhere. That, we all need to be aware of our surroundings constantly, and it never used to be like that. We had a shop class years ago in the 70s and stuff like that, and the boys would make gun stocks and actually put their guns together, and those guns sat on the shelf, and nobody touched them. Nobody got killed. Nobody got shot. Those guns don't do it on their own. It's the evil within the people that do it. It's the evil behind the people that do it, and that's all.
And you think about the fact that guns were far more prevalent in the past, and we didn't have these types of shootings. And so it is the internal evil. It is the drugs. I mean, we've got reports now that his parents were medicating this guy from a very early age. He had psychological issues. He had, when you look at this and you see somebody with deep psychological issues, and you try to put a Band-Aid of drugs on, what you wind up doing, because you don't address the root cause, what you wind up doing is creating a monster, because that is simply a Band-Aid. And when you pull that Band-Aid off, when you remove that drug that they have become addicted to, the withdrawal symptoms and the other things that happen with these SSRIs, I mean, it is like if you were ripping a Band-Aid off of your hairy chest. I mean, it inflames these people, and they get worse than they ever were. And so they don't address the root cause. They give them something that turns them into more of a monster, and then they tell the rest of us who haven't done this that we have blood on our hands. The NRA does not have blood on its hands. This guy was an NRA instructor. He was the person who stopped this, and you have CNN focusing on the evil AR-15. And this guy who stopped it was using an AR-15. That's what they won't tell you.
News media, the first thing they did, it's getting sickening, where they jump on the first thing, and that's the gun laws.
That's right.
That's the first thing they went to. I waited, I counted. It wasn't even 10, 15 minutes. And CNN, oh, here we go with the guns again.
Yes,
you know?
yes, absolutely.
And you're right. When you start medicating these people, and then you rip the Band-Aid off and you take that away from them, you know, and these medications that they're shoving down the kids and things like that, like antidepressants and all this other stuff, it only makes things worse. It melts the mind.
That's right. Not to mention the health effects. Thank you so much for calling us, Sandy. I want to get to another caller before we go to break, because we've got an interview coming up in the next segment. Let's go to Amy in New Jersey. Amy, thank you for calling.
Hi, David. How are you? I wanted to discuss with you, you know, it makes me think with this shooting, if that had happened in my home state, well, not my home state, but where I live right now, we can't even carry here. This would have been a slaughter fest. And we have an election coming up here today for gubernatorial. Everyone's talking about Virginia. But if this Mercy wins, we're going to be a sanctuary state. Taxes are going to go up, and he's going to further restrict our gun rights here. We are going to be sitting ducks. Today, they're going after the Christians. Tomorrow, it will be Jews like me. So I'm very concerned.
And you're very right to make this point. I wish I had talked about it more. The election in Virginia, but also very important in New Jersey. And this is an off year. So if you show up to vote, you can have a big effect in New Jersey and Virginia.
Please vote for Kim Godagno. Don't do the third party, because that's going to split the vote and give it to Murphy. Please, people, get out and vote and not restrict our gun rights, please, because we can't be sitting ducks here. And,
New Jersey is just
we're
horrible.
next to Patterson, where they had the guy that was in the mosque, the guy that ran over people with the box truck. That's where he was living, you know, and he went to the mosque there a few towns over from me. This is going to be a dangerous Sharia zone if this guy gets in. Thank you.
And that tells us what the issue is here. The issue is internal. They can use whatever weapon they want, and typically what we've seen is it's knives attacking, like we saw in Britain. This guy yelling Allahu Akbar and slitting the throat of a young girl, stabbing another one in the chest. They don't need to have firearms to do this type of stuff. The problem is inside the person, and we cannot take away our ability to defend ourselves. That is an inherent God-given right that we have to defend. Very important, as Amy mentioned, we've got a gubernatorial race in New Jersey and one in Virginia. It is very important to show up this time of year, this off-year election. This is a great time to have your vote heard, because there's going to be a low turnout in all of these elections, because there's no presidential election, there's no congressional. Go to the polls today. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight. We'll be talking about Camp Constitution when we return.
I'm very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality InfoWars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high-quality, known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Technical grade in a forest grade.
All time designed to...